Not the Steam Deck. Let's talk about the Stream Deck. Totally different piece of hardware.
Totally
confusingly similarly named.
And not to be confused with the other one, the Steam Deck Dock, which is,
There's a Steam Deck dock.
There's a Steam Deck Dock.
And they didn't just call it a Steam Dock?
It might have some other name, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Steam Deck Dock, like the official.
What the
Butterscotch.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 449 of Coffee with Butterscotch, the game dev comedy podcast of Butterscotch Shenanigans. I'm Seth and I'm the games programmer.
I'm Adam and I'm the miscellaneous programmer.
I'm Sam and I'm wearing a turtleneck.
And this is a show where we talk about life, turtlenecks, business, and working in the games industry.
Mostly turtlenecks.
Mostly turtlenecks. Today is January 5th, 2024. And before we get started, we have a warning. There's going to be swears, curses, and profanes in this. Just this episode. The rest are totally clean. But yeah. So if you want to hear clean episodes, listen to one of the other ones.
Yeah, you'll hear at the beginning of each of those episodes, you'll hear another warning that suggests that maybe it's not
listen to
clean.
it. It's fine.
Don't listen. Just ignore that.
Ignore that.
Yep.
It's just boilerplate. It's just, our lawyers made us put that there.
Yep.
We'd also like to thank our recurring supporters over at moneygrab.bscotch.net. Thank you so much for their donations to help keep the podcast going. All right, we got a lot to talk about because, hey, it's a new year.
What? A new year, a new Wii.
A new Wii, which is to say there isn't a new Wii coming out this year. I think that's just never coming back. Oh. Yeah, sadly. But we've got some news about the theme of the year, which is that we've chosen it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
After much deliberation.
After entire minutes of deliberation.
Yep.
Okay. So for those who are kind of newer to the podcast, every year we come up with a new name for the year to set the tone for what kind of a year we want to have or plan to have or predict having. Okay.
Sort of an aspirational target, but ideally also a little dumb.
And also vague so that you can, you can use it as a guess and fit whatever container you need it to fit into.
But also not a monkey's paw, where you get something that is technically in that realm, but not what you want, Yeah.
Yep. Which, if you try hard enough, lots of things can become a monkey's paw. So, it just can't be a surface level kind of monkey's paw situation, So last year, our theme was 20 Jubilee. It got a rhyme with 2023, right? It's 20 Jubilee, and it was, hey, let go of old debts, get out of debts, whatever. Just try to get away from things that are holding you down in the past and move forward. That's what 2023 is about. So 2024, the theme this year is 22x4, as in the wood, the piece of wood, because this year is all about nailing it.
Yep.
Okay. But also, it's about a lot of other things too.
Structural support,
Yeah. Be there for the people around you. Be a supporting beam in the life of your friends. And
also, when you're doing stuff, measure twice, but cut once,
Yeah.
It's about being careful.
Yeah. And also, the 2x4, it's one of the fundamental building blocks of construction.
Really, it's just modern society,
Yeah, get down to the basics and just really break things down to their most fundamental parts. Really focus on what matters. The real structural, the real foundational things of life, You could take this in a lot of different ways, but 2x4s, I think, are a good mascot for this.
They really are. Yeah.
Really underappreciated.
The unsung heroes.
Yeah. Underrated. People, I don't know, maybe people in the construction community are like, what the fuck are you talking about? We barely ever used to.
It's the worst.
I don't know. But that's the wood that people know,
It is.
So at the very least, it's good at marketing itself, which is also an important skill.
Truly.
Yeah. So welcome to 22x4, the year of nailing it. We also had some interesting other contenders like 20 Plenty Velour. We had 20 Labrador, which was just happy to be here kind of vibes. Lots of crazy ones. If you want to hear some of those, you can go to our previous episode where I think we went through quite a lot of them.
Yep.
Some better than others.
Yes.
As always. I mean, we didn't even.
As always.
We of course didn't say the ones that we came up with that we hated. So we
threw a bunch of our own in the garbage before we
even heard it. Yeah.
got into your ear holes.
Most ideas go straight out of the brain into the garbage. That's just sort of, but you got to keep that flow going. You just got to keep them going.
Mm-hmm. It's all about flow. So also as part of setting the stage for the year, So normally, we go do like a year in review. What happened last year? And then we want to make predictions for the upcoming year. Well, last episode, we did a big review of what happened. And so now it's time to look ahead. What's coming down the pipe for all of us here at the studio, but also just kind of, in the world at large, broadly? What's going to happen this year? We've got some predictions.
Okay.
All right. So first, we're going to talk about AI. Last year, AI kind of took everybody by surprise. It's becoming increasingly capable very fast and in ways that are kind of confusing and easy to misuse and misunderstand. There's lots of wild shit happening in that space, and that's going to just continue at an accelerating rate.
Yeah.
So
it's getting real when Microsoft puts a new key button.
Oh my God, I hate that.
I don't know if you saw that. There's a button on the keyboard for summoning Copilot.
they want keyboard.
Exactly.
They want Microsoft products with like official keyboards, and stuff to moving forward for like their Surface Pros and stuff, right? To have a dedicated keyboard key to open up their Copilot.
People love it when you have you remember the Chromebooks that got rid of the caps lock key and put a search button there instead? People love that shit. They love losing keys or getting weird ones that have a very hyper-specific function.
I don't know where this key is going to go, but I do think, again, it's very indicative of the role that this is playing, right? Which is as soon as someone's like, you know what, we need to change physical hardware to make it easier for you to summon your AI buddy. I do think, that's a good tip.
They're leaning into it.
They're leaning in real hard.
To me, it's a kind of a cart before the horse kind of a thing because I've used their desktop Copilot. And it seems completely fucking pointless. So
it is
for now.
Maybe I was like, for now. But it's weird to be like, we know someday this is going to have a point. So let's just go ahead. It's true. Hardware takes a long time to like get deployed and stuff, So I guess we could just call it a very optimistic signal.
Here's the thing: even if you put the cart before the horse, you still move the cart. You know what I mean? You still move the cart further.
Yeah, as long as the horse can push it, from behind.
Depending on how you rig that.
Is the horse facing the cart? Is there appropriate structures in place that can push behind?
Between the horse and the cart, I think is kind of more of what's going on. Potentially.
Yeah, I think the horse and the cart are currently in two different buildings right now, and they're not even hooked up at this point.
There's no reins long enough, to reach.
Yeah, and I also don't even know which thing is the cart and which thing is the horse in this scenario, but one of them is out of order. Okay, that's what's happening.
Yeah, I think
there's also going to be. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, I think when it comes to AI, I think there's going to be we're going to see some. I think we're going to see more of like the same. In the sense of it's going to be boring actually this year. Last year was exciting with AI. This year is going to be boring and horrifying, is my prediction.
Last year was
it's going to get better. I think it's going to keep getting better. I think that's true, but not in the same way like we went from 0 to 1 last year. Yeah. And I think this year we're going to go from like 1 to who knows, maybe even 2. But it's going to be way less interesting. But the consequences are going to start really unfolding this year, and it's going to be largely horrifying with little drops of like, ooh, this is neat and super useful, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about some of these possible consequences. So some of them are, well, for starters, in the game space, there's going to be a pretty big uptick in games that have content in them made by AI, whether it's music, art assets, 3D models, textures, sounds, whatever. And that opens up a lot of questions about ownership.
Actually, one of them is already answered, which is that you can't copyright that stuff, which means that we're going to start seeing, like, as companies start to try to use AI for stuff, I think we're going to see it mostly in, like, small indie studios. Because
I think you see it in the AAA space.
Yeah, but here's where
the lawyers know that they can't maintain their.
But that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You can copyright a phone book, but you don't own the names in the phone book. Those are other people's names.
Yeah,
right?
you copyright the organization of it. But
what you've copyrighted is the organization of it. Yeah.
But so far with the AI stuff, my understanding is that the legal stuff that's gone through so far has basically said AI content is literally not copyrightable, like period. And the same with that, like a chemical structure isn't copyrightable or whatever, right? So it's not even the specific organization of the content, because that's what AI content is the specific organization, right? My understanding is that the legal precedent so far, which is not strong yet because there haven't been a lot of cases, right? But that the only legal precedent so far basically says this is not anything produced by an AI is not copyrightable.
Right. But that also means if you're using GitHub Copilot, what does that mean about your code?
It's not copyrightable.
Right.
Although, but for Copilot, it's a little bit different because you then work on the thing that got generated. Right?
But what if you don't?
But code is already not meaningfully copyrightable, right? Because it's the same thing as the organizational thing, which is if you rewrite your code a little bit, then then you're fine, right?
Mm-hmm. It's not the same. It's not a copy.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
I think
So anyway, point being, there's a lot of shit.
If I pick a company, I'm going to pick Ubisoft.
That's the right choice. Yeah.
Do some really hilariously dumb thing regarding AI that's going to kind of come out, and everyone's going to be like, "Why?
I also think
did you do that?"
maybe not this year, but pretty soon. I think Disney will do the same.
Oh yeah,
totally.
I
think you're going to see a lot more AI generated stuff sneaking its way into TV shows, movies, games, whatever, and it's going to happen at a rate where the legal system will just not really have answers at all.
So my prediction is actually the opposite, which is these really big companies that do high quality production and stuff will start using AI in a supportive capacity in the same way that like programmers already can do with Copilot, right? But that there will not be any direct use of AI content because the best content still is the stuff made by the combination of really good tooling and really good human skills, right? And people who are like doing extremely high quality work today, AI is nowhere near that, and it won't be this year. It's like it's not going to come even close, right?
Yeah, and most of the problems with AI are integration challenges, where it's it's not about like, for example, when making an art asset for a game, it's not just like having a picture of a thing.
Yeah.
It needs to follow a bunch of tech specs and fit with the art style.
It's about scale, and it's about maintaining over a period of time, right? Because the art that gets generated in like a movie, right, has to make sense from every angle, and also kind of has to make the character has to look like the same fucking character 2 hours in, right? And that kind of stuff, and these are the things that like AI is not. That's not what it's for. It's not for that, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the current iteration of what we're doing with that. So I think we're going to see the people who are thinking about AI correctly in its current form. I think we're going to start seeing some really cool stuff in the tooling space come out of that. In particular for artists, I think a little bit in games, but I think the technical things around there are so strict
specific,
and specific and varied that I honestly don't think we're going to see very much good stuff happening with like AI assisted game dev. I think we're going to see some weird stuff and some
more
questionable decisions, I think, over this year when it comes to AI games. But
yeah, and I think you're probably going to see, so kind of as a consequence of all that stuff, you're going to see that the trend of all these larger tech companies, game studios, tech companies, whatever, they're going to continue to kind of downsize and lay people off. Because if you have a lot of people using AI in a supplemental role, then those people tend to be able to do a lot more and more cheaply and whatnot. And that's just that trend already started last year.
Well, but that wasn't because of AI. Last year, the reason that was happening was because of the change to the cheapness of money, right?
It was. Yeah, well, it's a confluence.
I don't think it is. I don't think AI has had any impact in the game space.
Yeah, I don't think it's hit the space yet.
Outside of dumb managers just being like, "Hey, I think we can get away with like just using AI for this," and like firing people, and then which will inevitably turn around because they can't. They actually can't do better or even the same with fewer people plus AI, right? Currently.
Well, I don't think they care about that. They care about
exactly. They don't care about that, but once they discover that they just have worse stuff, then they have to hire back again, right?
Yeah, I think as in the US in particular, as the overall interest rate stuff, comes back down, which they've said it's going to this year, then you'll see a bit of a change on the industry side as far as the layoffs and stuff go.
I think hiring
mainly
will go back up.
So.
But it's always been like every time people have introduced, like if you think about any AAA studio, right? AAA studios have gotten access to better and better and better technology over the years to make it so that any one person can do even more, right? Have AAA studios shrunk? Fuck no.
It's always the Jevons paradox stuff we talk about.
Yeah,
I guess
you'll just have bigger games. Is going to be what happens. Yeah. And actually, there was a really good opinion piece I saw kind of about this whole idea of AI and stuff in the first place, which was that it shouldn't the idea that it's being sold as like, hey, you can make stuff cheaper because you can like hand off tasks to AI is actually exactly the opposite of a selling point, which is, hey, you can make your work better, but you can make your work more expensive and better because AI has a cost, and you can now add that cost to your whatever the work is that you're doing, right? To then, as a toolkit, to then make the outcome of that work better, right? Mm-hmm. And so thinking of it from that way, like AI is not a money saving tool at all. It's
a value adding tool.
It's a value add tool, and it adds cost. It adds cost and value the same way adding a person does, the same way adding any tool does, right? And I think that's the way that you have to think about it to actually use it effectively in a business context. And I think we're going to start seeing that people are going to start seeing that, hey, it turned out firing all of our staff and then having one person talk to GPT, like, didn't work out actually. Like, it didn't allow us to build better products, right? It allowed us to build a lot of mediocre product, whatever our thing is, right? If our product was simple enough in the first place that AI could replicate it, right? But not actually better.
In order to learn that lesson, people have to do that.
Yeah, like, and they did.
They do have to.
They have been, and they will continue to. I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think this year will be kind of like a lot of hard learned lessons about AI and business and legal stuff. Yeah.
And I think we're gonna have the first big legal cases, I think, this year that are going to be really interesting, and because that's already happening for Midjourney's getting sued very aggressively for all the art they stole, you know. Because the fact is that everything that these big AI companies have done it's illegal. It's literally illegal. They just scraped fuckloads of copyrighted data that they weren't allowed to take, right?
Just cost of doing business.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think what we're going to see this year is we're going to see if regulators will decide, hey, you know what? Even though that was really illegal, we've decided we're going to let you get away with it, with or without, you know, some fines or having to actually now pay out to people from whom you stole.
Well, the thing is, if you steal art from like 300 million people, even if those people manage to pull a class action lawsuit, which would be incredibly difficult because they're all over the world, right? They're not even in the same jurisdiction. But then also, what would their recompense be? Like $1 each, probably, and then like the lawyers would win. And
well, there's an interesting case for this though already with Spotify, which apparently pursued a similar track because they basically just put music up, you know, like all of it, without having deals in place for a lot of people. And a big part of that was because a lot of people aren't necessarily in the major like traditional record labels. Like most music is not actually, right? Most of the available stuff.
Somebody just made a song and put it up on
SoundCloud or a bunch of independent stuff, whatever. And so part of the strategy though is by putting all of it up, they end up forcing essentially a mechanism to come into existence by which they can then actually pay people for stuff, right? Essentially by having the courts get involved and then say, here's how this would look legally for you to do it. So you sort of do it illegally first because there's no way that they could figure out how do you actually track down all these people or handle all this stuff? They're like, we don't know. So we're just going to do it. And then when the courts figure out how to make us do it properly, then we'll kind of do it that way. So my guess is you're going to see a similar.
Yeah, it's going to be something like that. Where there's too much money involved and the companies involved are too big and own way too many U.S. senators, you know.
Well, and the harm is very hard to triangulate. It's like if an AI model trains up, like if you're an artist and an AI model uses some of your art, right, to like train itself up, but also is using the art from 20 million other artists, right? It's hard for you to really explain or quantify like how that hurts you in the sense that like only if you could demonstrate like that you're like maybe you're a commission artist and you're losing clients because your clients can now just talk to this AI and it can just exactly like replicate your style or something.
Which definitely is happening. I think there's
that kind of thing does happen.
Yeah, for simpler projects, people, it is happening. Yeah, for illustrations, for all sorts of stuff. I think ID at Xbox, I think just yesterday, like tweeted something.
Yeah, they got in trouble. Yep.
Was apparently an AI generated fucking.
Yeah, it was some like what indies festival. I don't care what it was, but it was some event that they had, and they had this little like snowy cartoony landscape, you know, that was like very obviously AI generated, and they rightfully it's fucking Microsoft. You can pay somebody to do.
They paid $10 billion. Remember? I think they, if, more than anybody, have paid enough commission for an AI generator.
So yeah, I think this is going to be really interesting. I think the part of AI is going to be interesting this year is the horrors that come out this year.
Yeah,
because there's going to be a lot, and then the regulatory legal stuff that happens this year. And I don't really know what's going to happen there because my bet is because of the scale of the money involved that this
a lot of things could just be swept under the rug.
Yeah, that the legal
like
outcomes will just
Spotify
be a
shit.
change, and so now and the change will just be that, at least to some degree, companies will now be allowed just to steal whatever they want for the purpose of training an AI. Is my bet, at least in the U.S. I think it's possible that less, bought and paid for regulatory bodies might.
The EU will probably look very different.
Yeah, the EU, my bet is, and I think we're going to see a really interesting split in like what's going. And just, I think it's the same with like privacy laws, right? Like in the EU, very strict, very frankly good, even though they're frustrating on our side to deal with. Privacy laws in the US, fucking nothing, right? And I think we're going to see a really.
The US remains the Wild West on the technology front, I think.
Yeah,
it's going to
do whatever, move fast and break things.
Yeah.
Break lots and lots of
break
things.
Society, break people's lives. Doesn't matter as long as we got some cool technology and some people became billionaires. We're living the American dream.
Yeah. So otherwise, in the tech space, I think because of all of the layoffs that happened last year, I think you're going to see a kind of a resurgence of lots of smaller teams coming up with like new apps and new startups and stuff, many of which will just get then immediately consumed by AI, probably. Because they'll be like, we made an app to solve this problem, but then the next day you can just ask ChatGPT to do it and it'll just do that thing for you.
I'm still less optimistic about that. I think more my belief is what's going to happen is that the first part is true, that we're going to see a lot of new little companies and cool things come out, but money's going to become cheap again, and all the monopolies will buy them up and just remove them from existence, just like they normally do.
I think the money being cheap thing is what also helps a lot of the smaller startups that have a higher specialization required for participation. That actually helps them get started. So I think you actually see less of it in the beginning.
I think the first thing we're going to see is less of it
until interest rates come down. And then so we're also going to predict that crypto is finally going to do something. It's going to be useless.
Continue to be useless.
Nothing's going to happen.
But speaking of Ubisoft, I think Ubisoft is going. The thing it's going to do with AI will also have NFTs in it.
Almost certainly.
Whatever it is.
Nothing's really going to happen in the crypto. There might be some really interesting new scam technology coming out of the crypto space this year.
That's just crypto in general.
That's just how it works, though.
Yeah.
So we also think that there's going to be we're going to go bold on this one. There's going to be a new iPhone this year.
Whoa.
Yeah. So some things that might happen with this new iPhone: better camera. That's really going on a limb here.
That's probably about it, to be honest. As far as new things on the phone.
Do you think one more camera? Because they also add more better cameras.
I want to have the entire back plate
just be cameras.
Just cameras.
Yeah.
Isn't there that one League of Legends character that has a helmet with like 40 eyeballs on it for some reason?
Yeah. You need thinking about his
you need that for and he's like a sword guy because you got to, much like a sniper, when you're in close quarters combat, you need 40 eyes to see incredibly well, right? So you need your iPhone to be like that. So hopefully we see an iPhone with yet even more and better cameras.
Yes.
And then it will be marketed using a lot of extremely tight close-ups of shiny edges of things. And they'll probably maybe include some kind of new interesting material like rubber or something. And they'll talk about that. That would be pretty cool. Yeah. So that's our Apple step. Also, the Apple Vision Pro will continue to exist this year as a product.
Yep. Yes. And it will continue, and VR as a VR/AR as a thing will, despite the Vision Pro, continue to remain a tiny market that is not worth investing a lot into.
It will continue to be constrained by people going, I don't like having a big thing strapped to my face. And that's just going to be a thing. Maybe if they, maybe toward the end of this year, if Apple figures out how to kind of condense that thing down to be, more glasses-like and less helmet-like. I think that scaling stuff down to that level is still quite a ways off. So
they do have, there are some of like the Ray-Bans glasses and stuff that are basically Google glasses now that exist. And apparently everyone's just like cool with it because you can't tell. I don't know if you guys know. They do work. They're basically Google glasses. It's the same thing. They just look like sunglasses. So I think we're going to see some more of those, truthfully.
Some more cool wearable tech, but I think it's going to still be like incremental improvements. Nothing's going to take over there yet.
Yeah. And also like so many nerds who would be really interested in this kind of stuff sort of need prescription glasses. So
it works. They know their audience. It's good.
Yeah. So it's good. All right. So what else do we think is going to happen this year? We think the influencer space is going to keep kind of centralizing and becoming more monolithic.
Yeah, I think this is largely driven by all the algorithms in the space getting more and more, just continuing to get more tight. This has been happening for 10 years. I think it's just going to continue happening. I think you're going to have it be the case that creators on your YouTubes and other platforms just going to continuously be pushed into just a few. Yeah,
things. We'll just have fewer and fewer successful people on those platforms, and whose content becomes increasingly monocultural. With just less and less interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, that's not a very bold prediction because it's just kind of what's.
It's just a trend.
It's just going to keep happening.
But also like the one of the weird things that happens with this kind of thing is actually kind of reminds me of something like basketball players, right? Which is like the salary of the high end salary of a professional basketball player is like hundreds of millions of dollars. Like the amount of success that you like, the ceiling of success is like infinite, right? Which makes it incredibly attractive as something to aspire to, right?
Yes.
But almost nobody hits that level of success. There's like 5 people, right, who will hit that point. And the same thing kind of happens with like Twitch streamers or YouTubers or whatever, where as that ceiling keeps going up and up of how much money they can make and how much success
people who are already successful will continue to become increasingly unnecessarily successful. Just nobody needs that level of success.
And so you'll have even more people kind of coming in at the bottom trying their hand at it, trying to start their own YouTube channels.
Everything is late stage capitalism, and the shittification of all services will continue, right? Is what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's a pretty good prediction.
Yeah.
Also think that despite everyone's best efforts, I think most people will still not have folding phones this year. I think part of it is a cost thing. Part of it is I don't know how to put it, but like there's certain people where you say, hey, we're making a phone that's like it's a touchscreen, but also it folds. Some people are like, oh fuck, cool, and other people are like, why? Right?
I am one of those.
I'm in the Y
cool
camp.
People.
Sam's in the cool camp. Adam's in the Y camp.
Yeah. The thing is, though, I want a keyboard. If you fold it, give me my fucking keyboard.
If you're making
back.
an argument for a keyboard, like that's a different thing because you can have a foldable with or without a keyboard, right? So I think like if you're pumped about a keyboard, that's one thing. But it doesn't sound like you're pumped about a foldable phone specifically, right? Because to me, the thing is like a foldable phone.
It's both. Does that make sense? Like,
to me, the foldable phone solves
dreams.
The problem of just phones being too big, right? But it trades that for phones now being too thick, And to me, my phones are already too big and too thick. So if I folded it, I would just be like, now I have a fucking like brick in my pocket that I'm carrying.
You know what? I want a phone that actually is just an origami crane. Ooh. And then I can
talk to it.
Or talk to it. Yeah, let's fucking go.
Extremely foldable.
Extremely foldable.
The problem with that is, you'll go to the grocery store and they'll hand you your receipt, right? And like, and you put your receipt in your pocket. And then the next time you go to the trash to throw the receipt away, you accidentally throw your phone away because it's been crumpled up like a receipt, and now you're out $40,000.
Give me a crumpleable phone.
Crumple that phone.
I want a Samsung crumple. That's what I want.
The crumple. Now, something that I would love to happen this year that won't happen is for OLED screens to have the burnout problem resolved so that I can get an OLED computer monitor, because the colors are gorgeous, but you can't fucking use them on something that you have turned on for 12 hours
and
a day.
On that note, so just this past like year in particular, so basically they're like, if you think this is kind of a weird tangent, but it is related, right? If you're looking at a monitor, trying to look at colors, right? A monitor is limited in what colors it can actually show you that can possibly exist that your eyeball can understand and see, right? So as of fairly recently, like the Retina displays from Apple, like the display itself supports a much wider range of colors than like your standard RGB, like LEDs can actually even show, right? But most software hasn't bothered to support those other colors because why? What would be the point, right?
Yeah, this is like HDR.
It's like HDR, same idea. Yeah. But recently that's been really starting to shift so that there's more and more support from things that actually generate the images that you see on a screen to actually support these wider colors. And they're like a lot wider. It's like literally like 60% more colors or something like that. Like it's a huge addition to the color space, right? Yeah. And until very recently, the web didn't support those color spaces, but it does now.
Ooh.
Which is like that's one of those kind of bottlenecks, right? So you're seeing this, and more of like the screen technology now supports these broader color spaces. And I think OLED is like, I don't know if they inherently do or if they just are easier to make support those wider color spaces or what, but like I think we're gonna start seeing a lot of really cool stuff happening with color. And
what's interesting in that is that like a lot of the push in games for, you know, making everything look amazing, right? Over the last decades has been about just increasing the level of detail available just in engine, right? That, like on the assets themselves. But this is the sort of thing that actually, again, like to Seth's point, playing with even playing with HDR on versus not. The reality is like there's a limit, a technological limit that's on the very end of the whole pipeline here, which is like what colors and what value range are available on the screens people look at.
Yeah.
That actually improving that is probably going to have, you're probably going to actually have one of the most profound effects on like the overall sense of things being, you know, gorgeous to look at in any form of media.
And getting closer to things being indistinguishable from real. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So it was interesting when we were working on, I think it was around the time we were starting with Levelhead. We got invited to go to an indie developer event at GDC, hosted by Xbox. And this was, I think, 2017, maybe? No, 2018. It was like,
I think it was 2018.
Yeah. And it turned out that the entire purpose of this event was like they got like 50 indie developers that were going to be releasing Xbox games together. And the whole entire purpose was to try to convince us to build a rendering pipeline for our game that supports HDR.
Yeah.
That was the whole...
It was, Seth and I were there. It was very funny because as the thing started to go on and continue down that vein, we were like, this is...
Yeah, wait a
we're making
second.
2D games in Game Maker. This is not...
Why are
this
we
is not for us. But it was the same deal with that because that was the same weekend that we had the Steam Dev Days event, right? Which they haven't had since. That was the last time they did it.
And they did a similar thing, right? Because they were pushing the VR.
It was
shit.
just about VR.
Yeah. The event was spectacular. There were thousands of people there, right? It was they gave us like amazing gift baskets. Like it was a really cool event where basically Steam was just showing off how much fucking money they have, right? But actually, but the whole event though, what it actually was, hey, let's get all of the developers in a room who are like making most of the successful games on the store, right? That we can get into the room and then bribe them basically to do VR, right? And that was the whole fucking event. It was the same deal again. It was like Seth were there. We're just looking at each other like,
what? Why are we here?
We shouldn't be here. And also, this is bad. This is actually bad for the developer community because they're going to do it. And then they're all going to go out of business. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the interesting thing was like, you could kind of tell that somebody had missed the memo about how the games industry works now, because we are not the people you talk to about building a rendering pipeline. You talk to Game Maker, right? Like you don't talk to the Rocket League team. You go to the Unreal Engine team and say, hey, can you add HDR rendering into your engine pipeline? And now everybody who uses Unreal Engine has it. You don't go talk to the individual devs. We don't control that shit
anymore.
Yeah, it was very weird. But that's just, but that was like 6 years ago. And still to this day, most games coming out don't support HDR because most monitors are not HDR
and that's gonna be,
monitors.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing with like these bigger color spaces too, is that you can't have a game that just uses that color space because it also has to work when it gets like down color spaced into...
Yeah, so you need two different rendering pipelines basically
or
for your
something.
game.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a lot to support.
It is, yeah. So, yep. I mean, hopefully we get some cool new advances, but in those spaces. But it's always it's always tied to the hardware and it's sticky. The last couple things we think are going to happen this year. We think Unity is going to get a new CEO, and and
No
it's
one's,
not
and
gonna
no one's
go-
going to be happy still.
it's not going to go great. So,
Bobby Kotick's available, I heard. Feels like he would fit right in.
he
You
would
know what I'm
just
saying?
slot right in there. Bam. He's well loved in the games community, much like their current CEO, I believe, or their current interim CEO. So, just keep the trend going.
Yeah.
And then last, we think that there's going to be a new Nintendo Switch unveiled. And I think this will be one of the first times that Nintendo is just like, yeah, we're just going to keep things mostly the same.
Yeah.
Well, except they did that for a long time with like their handhelds, right? Like the 3DS had generations of 3DSs, right? Which I think they've
That's true.
stopped now forever, and like the Game Boy in general, right? So I think what we might see is that they actually switched to that model for the Switch, right? Because it was just so successful as a platform.
Yeah, and it always seemed like Nintendo was trying to find a non-competitive space in the console space of like do something, because it's always been Microsoft and Sony sort of duking it out between
Same
themselves.
controller, same shaped box.
Same form factor.
You know?
That you could just take one game from one and just drop it right into the other, and it would play just as good, right? But then Nintendo was always like, we're gonna do stuff that if a developer makes a Wii game, it's gonna be fucking hard for them to get that game onto some other platform because Wii controllers are not the same as PlayStation controllers, right? So they just kind of like went perpendicular to the whole thing and just went into a totally different space. And then I think with the Switch, they found something that is still that.
It allows for that, but in a way
Yeah.
that, form factor wise, I think it's just
it's not so weird
Yeah.
that it's not so weird that developers would be having a big risk by making a game for the Switch.
Well, I
'cause
think
they
that's a
can
lot
also,
of it. Yeah, is that the risk is I think like the fact that the Switch has now been out for so long without a replacement, and that the replacement looks like it's going to be another Switch, I think is also a signal of their discomfort with the risk involved of doing the weird stuff. And I think a lot of that is just as you're saying, like the real like the risk actually mostly falls on the developers making games for a platform because it's extremely expensive to make a game. And if it has to follow a weird ass form factor, like support 2 screens or support weird controller things that don't exist on their platforms and stuff, right? It needs to be designed around that, then you actually can't really take it to their platforms, which means you're banking on the success of that platform, that one single platform, and then your game as a subset of the success of that platform, right? And so if you hit like the Wii U, right, which was bad for Nintendo, but it was even worse for basically any company that made a Wii U game, right?
Well, and the unfortunate reality of publishing a game on a Nintendo platform is you are competing very hard against their first party games.
Yeah.
Because they're all like they make their own games and they publish them on their own platform and they host their own store. They're totally vertically integrated, right? And if you come in and they feature your game, they don't have to do that. They're just doing that.
They don't
as a
have
favor,
to,
basically.
and don't. To be
And they don't.
honest.
They don't very often,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
and so
rare.
it's. What I'm really curious about is if there's any changes to their sort of like storefront and kind of their digital presence and how they handle distribution.
I doubt it. Yeah,
I've also seen.
I bet it'll look kind of like Xbox, where Xbox had a similar deal where they had a little bit of a phase where they did a decent job when there weren't that many games yet of supporting like indie stuff, right? Because they could find ways to showcase the stuff that was going on because there wasn't a ton of it. But once they started kind of just let things on the platform, and they didn't bother like Steam did to generate like a really good discovery mechanism, right? Then all of a sudden, like indie games it was just impossible to succeed just by like directly launching an indie game onto Xbox, right? Until Game Pass, until they curated a new subset of the games all over again, right? To give you a small selection. And I think we've already seen that with the Switch, which is that there's
The first year of Switch was great for indies.
Yeah, and
for
then
the most
and
part,
then it's basically been not good ever since.
and it
right?
just kind of collapsed. Yeah, that was just where we kind of like learned of the terms like blue ocean and red ocean market, right? Which is like you got this new marketplace opening up to blue ocean. It's just open wide, everything's great, and then pretty soon you start to see blood in the water because everybody's eating each other. And then pretty soon it's just red. It's like it's only danger. Like it's just a really rough place.
And the first party titles are the megalodons, just swimming around.
Yeah, they're just
fucking everything.
chomping. Yeah, the next Zelda game hits, and well, you're not going to be on the front page while that's going on. So those are kind of some of our predictions for the year. A lot of it is just, I don't think anything dramatic is going to happen other than just sort of like continuing.
What do you mean? There's going to be tons of
trends
dramatic stuff that happens.
Yeah, well, drama's in the eye of the beholder,
I mean,
if you're holding bees, every situation has a really elevated level of tension.
Pumped up.
Yeah, but when life is bees, which I think is the world we live in, then
life is bees.
Yeah.
Now, on to some interesting tech stuff. The Stream Deck. Not the Steam Deck. Let's talk about the Stream Deck. Totally different piece of hardware.
Totally
confusingly similarly named.
And not to be confused with the other one, the Steam Deck Dock, which is,
There's a Steam Deck dock.
There's a Steam Deck Dock.
And they didn't just call it a Steam Dock?
It might have some other name, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Steam Deck Dock, like the official.
What the fuck?
I didn't know that. That's even crazier. But the Stream Deck is a little cute little device.
This is the Elgato Stream Deck, right?
Yeah, it's an Elgato. It's called Elgato Stream Deck, and originally it was built, as you might imagine, for streamers who need to do a lot of things. Almost like if you're DJing a radio show, they have like a soundboard. They got buttons basically they need to push that just do a thing. And that becomes very difficult if you're managing essentially like a OBS studio and you're doing like multiple screens. You might be switching between. You might be doing like, I'll come back later sort of thing. All sorts of little like macroable things that if you had to hotkey them or whatever else, just kind of there's so many that it gets very challenging to know what the fuck is happening. And the Stream Deck tried to solve this by saying, okay, we're going to give you essentially a row of buttons that each little button is both programmable in terms of what it causes to happen. They have integrations with stuff like Discord, Spotify, whatever. And importantly, each little button is actually a screen with custom content on it. So I saw this part. Yeah, that's the cool part. And I saw this just like before the break for some reason. I don't even remember exactly what kicked it off, but I saw one. And then I was wondering about solving a very particular problem that all of us in the studio typically have, which is that we are in voice chat a lot, like most days, right? And also screen sharing a lot all via Discord. And one of the things that's always been annoying to me is that I cannot tell, except by looking over at Discord, if I'm currently muted. So if I'm about to cough or, baby says something or whatever, I have to like double tap the fucking mute button because I can't tell, where I'm at.
I'm constantly just re-hitting the hotkey and then listening to the audio cue to figure out if I was already muted or not.
Exactly. And same thing with, screen sharing, tapping over to it, whatever, as well as a bunch of other stuff. But those were my main things. So I saw this and I was like, I wonder if that would be able to provide me like a little actual visual indicator. Sure enough, for those people who use, I guess, VoIP a lot for work, this thing's been great. I love it. I got I guess it's called the Mark II, but it's the regular one now, which is 5x3 buttons. And you can like put multiple pages in there. You can do whatever. And I set mine up. So largely it's like almost like a Discord controller for just managing that whole aspect of my workday. So I made some little macros using auto hotkey that this thing fires that now handles fully doing screen sharing for me, full screening and focusing the current video call, muting, deafening, swapping between mics, like all that shit that previously, we do like 1,000 times a day, just popping over to a voice call or just focusing the voice channel when someone's like, hey, what about this? And it's like the Discord window's gone. I got to go. And even if I could just focus it with a keyboard press, which you can, you'd still maybe have to go click on something or full screen it or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And
these things are still a project, right? Because as you said, as you were kind of talking through it, like some of the stuff you did was like already kind of just a thing you could do, right? You could be like, I'm going to add a button to mute and unmute on Discord, right? And other stuff you're like, I need an auto hotkey script that you had to write that you didn't trigger and stuff, right? So you'll get like cool features right out of the box that can make your life easier. And then the sky's the limit, on what you can also do, but just be aware you're also getting yourself into a project,
Oh yeah, for sure. And it depends on your use case too. I know there are artists who use it because there's Photoshop plugins for it. There's all sorts of stuff that lets you then, move some things onto it, like screens, brush size and all that sort of things. Very commonly a thing that artists are trying to figure out how to do. There's one with knobs, which I almost got because just knobs, I don't know, man.
Hell yeah,
twisty knobs. so good,
satisfying.
Ended up not going for it because I was like, I can tell what I do with a knob, but I have no idea what I do with the three other knobs. And then they nuke, like half the buttons basically.
You're like, knob? Sign me up. Knobs? I don't think so.
Too many knobs, I don't know. I'm not an octopus. I can't operate that many knobs at once.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. And it was a lot of fun to set up. So if you're one of those if you like hardware stuff, or if you just do a lot of things where you would need to be able to see some aspects of it, you can check out their marketplace and just see if the software you use, there's VS Code stuff in there too. You know what I mean? There's plugins for a lot of software that you probably use if you listen to this podcast. And there might be some stuff there you can see that would be easy wins for just putting on a
And you can
button.
write your own plugins. I didn't dig deeply into it, but I was doing kind of a cursory look to get a sense of what does it take? And it looks like it's just JavaScript.
My brain almost exploded because I was telling Ab, I was like, oh, look at this cool thing. And he was like, oh, we could write our own plugins. And I was like,
Oh no. It begins.
I could do it.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
I haven't got
I've
one
been
yet,
using,
but yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you should I've been using it for, especially for things like when we do. So I have two different microphone setups. One is for podcasts, where I got this kind of big bulky microphone that's right in my face. But day to day, I don't use that. I use it for podcast recording. And so normally when we record podcast, I have to open up Discord, go into the settings, go into the voice menu, find a input thing, and swap devices, and then do the same thing the other way around when we're done. And also, there's no obvious way to know which microphone Discord is using unless you go into the settings.
Yes.
So on the Stream Deck, I was able to just add a button to turn on one microphone and another button to turn on the other one, and I have them. They display which one is active. So
what's crazy about that is
push a button and swap microphones.
Is that Discord integration provides that capability, which feels very niche to me, but it doesn't provide the ability to hit a button and full screen the fucking call you're on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were
What?
oddly selective about which things they have available, but
Yeah, it's weird. They're missing a bunch of hotkeys that feel like they'd be way.
yeah. But even just I got a button to swap between push to talk and voice activated, because when I'm gaming, sometimes I'll use push to talk, and then throughout the day I'll use voice. And so sometimes I'll accidentally have one of them set, but I need to switch to the other. And once again, it's go through a bunch of menus and shit. Oh, now just push a button. And also I can look at the button and just see which one I currently have, because it's a screen. It's also a little screen, right? Amazing. What a cool piece of tech.
It's
and
great.
the one I got is a 5x3 buttons,
Same
so
one,
15 buttons. There is one that has, I think, 32 buttons.
Yeah, they're pretty
That's a big-
pricey pieces of hardware too. So as you scale up, they get pretty expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I was tempted by the giant one and the one with knobs, but again, with the giant one, I was like, I know. Again, I could have a good guess about what I'd do with 15 buttons, but 30 something buttons. That's a little much.
Well, and
that
also
takes up so much desk space,
The other interesting thing about it is that not everything on there needs to be a button. So I put one on that's just a system clock, because sometimes if I'm playing games or whatever, I can't see my taskbar. I don't have a clock in my office.
They got the same thing too.
Yeah. So I could just always see what time it is. I found one that was a CPU usage indicator. So there's a little percentage display that would just show how much CPU, it's like a little control panel. You can just make your own little displays and ways to see what's going on with your.
I like hardware like this. It's it definitely solves the problem, right? And then also it's just kind of cute. I don't know how to describe it. It's just cute. It's got these little kind of bubbly buttons, and then each one is a really nice little LED screen. So it's got full color range and everything. It's just a cute.
Hell yeah.
It's just cute,
Yeah, I got the a while ago. I bought kind of the cheap version of this, which is this still very cool, fun little, but it's just a little board, right? Like a circuit board. It's etched on the back with kind of a cool little thing, but it's a circuit board etching, and it's basically just a tiny keyboard. It's like a numpad size, right, with a knob on it, and one little tiny LED screen at the top that's just black and white. It's
so fun.
I don't know. It's 15 by 50 pixels or something like that, right? And you could turning the knob swaps you between layers, right, on your what your keys are doing, and it's just programmable. So it's just they just give you a little Python library, and then you can program the keys to do anything Python can do, which is one of those things. I got it, and it has a whole bunch of presets for different applications and stuff, none of which I really use.
Right.
And so to actually use it at all, I was well, now I got to go learn this SDK and like go right.
And then you got to memorize it.
I got to memorize where it is.
Each button does.
Yeah, and you could like set the colors on it, which was neat. So you can have like so you can have like the colors of each button are individually addressable. So like each layer can. So you can like use that and like memorize. Oh yeah, the red means whatever, right? But the sheer amount of like cognitive load to use it and then the work to actually get it to do the
too much upfront.
Way too much upfront stuff. And it's kind of the funny thing is like I'm looking at the Elgato and I'm like it's like so few buttons, like there's like 15 or whatever, right? But you can instantly use it, just instantly.
Yep.
And
you'll know exactly what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you can see what it's doing. Yeah, which is really
I'll
nice.
take 15 buttons that I really can tell what's happening and use all the time versus potentially infinite buttons that I have to work very hard infinitely to figure out anything about. You know.
Well, it's like we talked about the Moonlander, right? It was like you'd get this keyboard and it's conceptually very cool, but the amount of work you have to do to get it to a point where you can use it is just it's just untenable, really. But yeah, so this thing's called the Stream Deck, not the Steam Deck.
Yeah, don't get it twisted.
Steam Deck is also great, but it's only got one screen on it.
Yeah, so it's
Not very
15
good for
times
getting work
worse than
It does
Stream
have a lot
Deck,
of buttons
I think.
though, but the buttons aren't also screens.
Yeah, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah,
Can you
and those
play
are the two
games
ways you
on,
measure a
on a
device.
Stream Deck?
You
Probably.
can play games with it. Yeah, because you can program with all the things.
But can you have one of the little LEDs be a monitor for the game that you're playing on it?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about that.
There must be a Doom plugin. Somebody must have
I bet
fucking
you
put
could.
Doom on
I
one
bet
of
you
those
could.
little-
I bet you could play Doom on this thing because you
I
can
saw
have
somebody
like
turn it into a controller, just like
Yeah.
which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I honestly, I haven't even. Well, what's nice about the Stream Deck is it's made for streamers, not for programmers. Anything that's made for programmers is a piece of shit. Changed my mind. The Stream Deck is made for streamers, which means it's like they wanted it to be the case that it was that if anybody wants to start streaming, then other streamers say, if you want to stream, get yourself a Stream Deck because it'll blah blah blah, right?
Yeah. And you could
Which means-
you could use it instantly.
Which means it has to be appealing to people who aren't necessarily incredibly tech savvy, but are still doing something with tech, right? So they have a little plug-in store. There's all kinds of stuff you can download. Like I even had a thing where speaking of HDR, I have an HDR monitor, but not every application works well with HDR. And so I kept having to like hit the Windows key, type HDR to search the HDR settings, and then find the little toggle slider to turn HDR on and off on my monitor, depending on what I was going to do. And it's annoying as hell, right? Well, I found in their plugin store, there's just like an HDR toggler. And it shows whether you are currently in HDR mode. And if you push it, it swaps modes. Boom. Now I just have a button right there.
Yeah,
and I didn't have to program anything. I just downloaded it.
Given out of the box with like the plugin ecosystem and stuff. Okay, so you've got HDR you can toggle. You've got Discord. Out of the box, can it start a Discord screen share? Or did Sam?
No, I wrote my own.
That's not a hockey thing.
Yeah, you can use Discord's just sort of basic. You can use all the shortcuts, of course.
Yeah, the stuff they have shortcuts for.
They're global.
Yeah,
But you can use it to focus certain chats or toggle your mics, like your actual talking on and off, toggle deafen, or swap mics and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Like swap audio devices, as well as some other stuff that I don't ever use. But
okay.
Ironically, though, you cannot toggle streamer mode with the Stream Deck.
if is there a hotkey for that though?
There is one in Discord, yeah. So I need to like set up a hotkey.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering.
That's what I did.
Is if there's a handful of things that can happen, right? So let's say a hotkey for turning on streamer mode, right? And let's say toggling HDR off, right? Because if you're screen sharing, you need HDR off because otherwise the other person sees insane stuff, right? If there's two different things in like the ecosystem, two different plugins that can solve those two problems, is there a way to chain them together in one button so that you can?
Yep.
Okay.
There's a multi-step thing you can use.
Cool. So it has like basic programming. That's not like programming, but like drag and drop.
So it's all drag and drop stuff. You just drag actions onto the buttons.
But so you're not limited to like if the plugin doesn't do all the things you want, then you're just like, well, I guess I have two different buttons that I have to now.
It has multi-steps.
You can like if you're not a programmer, you just do that, and that's fine. If you are a programmer and you can stitch those things together, then you could just do that. Or like Sam was saying, there's some things that the drag and drop interface can do where you can slap things together.
Yeah, because you can just tell it there's a hotkey thing. You just drag a hotkey on, which is what I use for the Discord video focus, like the call focus thing, which I didn't even know was really a thing or existed until I was trying to solve this problem. But basically, there is a shortcut for Discord where if you just press that button, then it will focus the current call. Or if you're in just like a chat window or something like that, it'll just put your cursor into the chat box, right? So with that, then you can, even if you just use that, which is what I do, I just put a Discord icon on it. So if I press that, then it pulls up the video. If it's all minimized and all that shit, right? I don't change it to anything because sometimes I just do that, but super useful.
Yeah.
I use it in my hockey scripts then, if that makes sense. So yeah, you could also just chain it depending.
Yeah, I've only had the thing for a couple of weeks, but it already feels like it was always supposed to be there on my desk.
Yeah, I'd be very annoyed if I didn't get to use it anymore, to be honest, because like the amount of it's that little chaff from the day, where you just get or chafing
Micro
like just
jank.
like micro jank where you're like, it's easy to share stuff on Discord, but we do it so much that it's like kind of annoying.
It requires all those steps to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the idea that like, if you have a computer, like you got your keyboard, you got your mouse. And now I feel like, but also you're supposed to have your Stream Deck. That's another thing that's supposed to be there with those peripherals, that's part of it. So, pretty interesting. Definitely recommend.
I
Check out
have
the
to
Stream
get
Deck.
one then.
You got to get one. I am kind of afraid to see what Adam pulls off with his. Probably going to be like, I'm going to take a 2-week sabbatical and program some
do some weird
Stream
stuff.
Deck.
Part of why I haven't been motivated to do it so far is that most of my workday consists of like so many different things that when I'm trying to imagine like which of these is the one that's like annoying, but that's also stable enough that I could, programmatically solve it. Right. Cause I don't like, if I was like working on Crashlands 2 specifically, then it'd be like, oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff I could think of. Cause it's like most of my workday every day is like things related to working on Crashlands 2. But like in any given day, I'm like doing Crashlands 2 stuff, doing Stitch stuff, doing Rumpus stuff, doing whatever. And so like the struggle that I've had is like, I can't even think of things actually that I'm like, I want a button that I could just hit
X.
and it would solve that.
But here's the thing, baby. You could just make folders for each of those like rough project spaces and then just be in that folder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the Stream Deck, you can also cycle through pages. So you can set up like different button configurations depending on what it is that
pages
you're doing.
or folders, depending on how you like them.
So even though it has 15 buttons, technically it
it's a
has
lot
way
more.
more than that because you can swap modes. And unlike something like the Moonlander or like these keyboards where when you change layers, the keyboard still looks exactly the same, right?
Exactly.
It's like with this, like when you change layers, the buttons will visually transform into whatever it is that you've changed them to, and then you don't have to memorize anything. You just look at it like a person. It's pretty cool. It's a very cool piece of tech. All right. Well, I think we were going to get to some questions, but we had to do our predictions, so we didn't quite have time to get to listener questions. But next episode, we'll definitely get some of those. So definitely go to podcast.bscotch.net and ask questions for next episode. That's all the time we have for this week. And we'd like to thank our producers, Fat Bard and Sampa Acosta, for putting the podcast together. And thanks to our community moderators who keep our Discord running. To get more involved in the Butterscotch community, just go to podcast.bscotch.net, where we have links to the Discord, a way for you to donate, and links to the podcast archives. And as always, if you haven't yet, head on over to Steam, give Crashlands 2 a wish list, and it'll help us out a ton. It'll boost the game's visibility on the charts and help get more algorithmic discovery. And it lets us know, that you're interested, which is great. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.